Hey guys, it's YOU WACK, and about a month ago I made a video talking about the dive comp and just give like a basic type of guide video, just how to execute the dive comp and why it works so well. Now if you want to go check that video out and just see what the dive comp is all about, then you totally can. I'll link it down in the description below because this video kind of feeds off of that, because today in this video I'm going to show you guys why the dive comp doesn't really work, especially at lower levels. Now I'm not saying that people at lower levels definitely can't do the dive comp or that they're not capable of. They totally can, but there's so many flaws with the dive comp that are just executed at the lower levels that aren't really executed at the higher levels, and I'll explain just why in this whole entire video. Now if you didn't go watch that video and you're pretty stubborn and you don't want to, which by the way I like you for that because you're your own person, but just a quick rundown basically of what the dive comp is all about. Pretty much it takes a Lucio and a Winston, and that's about it as terms of the heroes. The rest is free range because this is one of the best metas when it comes to hero selections, because a lot can make the dive comp really work, but really the only two heroes that are really required are the Lucio and Winston. And right now, as terms of season 5, I feel like the dive comp is one of the best like comps that you can try to do. When you try to go with the triple tank, it really doesn't work that well because, well, Reaper is so prevalent in all these games. You might think, well, Winston is countered by Reaper so easily. Yeah, but if he's supported with the dive comp, which he should be, then he can still live even if there is a Reaper. So right now, as terms of season 5, I pretty much think that the dive comp is one of the best tactics that you can ever use when trying to get the W in Overwatch. Because you gotta think, when you're doing the dive comp, you're not only just attacking from the front, which is how the World of Tank meta really was. You just pretty much went forward. No, with the dive comp, you're attacking at 10 million different angles, because you're not only attacking from the front, you're attacking from the skies, you're attacking from the left, you're attacking from the right. And the biggest thing that the dive comp also brings is just this off-guard kind of flair, like, oh my god, they're coming from the sky, and then they avert their attention to the Winston that's diving on them, and then the Zarya comes in, and well, there's a Tracer on the left side, so they don't really know who to focus on, and it really punishes people that have bad team coordination on defense. So really it has that element of surprise that really the enemy team isn't really expecting, unless you are at the higher levels. And at that point, then okay, maybe they have a little bit better skill, maybe they can mesh well even if they are playing solo queue. Just either way, the dive comp has so many elements to it that can make it work, but those same elements are the reasons why they really do not work. Now what I mean by that is that the dive comp really brings this risk factor. It's kind of like a high risk, high reward, because not only does it take team coordination, but it also takes commitment. If you're not committed to the fight, if you're not committed diving with the Winston, if you're not committed with the Lucio speed boosting, it is not going to work. Every player, all 6 players, have to be on the same page, ready to go and ready to fight in this single second for it to work, for it to be effective. If one element of that factor is not committed to it, then it's all going to fall apart. Maybe sometimes, okay, the Zarya didn't commit to the fight, but she can come in and maybe save the day because she was a little bit late. There are going to be some times where it really can work, but really if not everyone is committed to that single fight and ready to do their job in a sense, then it's not going to work. And that's why I feel like the dive comp is one of the worst tactics to try to use at the lower levels. Now I just want to stress, it can be done at the lower levels, but like I keep repeating myself over and over again, you have to coordinate a plan, and more than likely people aren't in game chat, people aren't in a party to, or at least willing to work together with the selected heroes. You can use the dive comp like the cookie cut heroes that I suggested, but if you're not creating a plan, it's not gonna work. Because let's say the Winston does dive in. Oh wait, we were ready for the Winston. Why weren't you ready? Because you weren't in game chat. Now that Winston is all by himself in the back line, and he's just feeding the enemy team just ultimate, because he's this big 500 HP scientist, because he's not a freaking monkey, he's not a gorilla, he's a scientist. So he's just feeding them ultimate, all because, well, you guys were ready to dive with him. Well, he was ready, or were you guys ready and he didn't know what was going on? There's just so much that's going on that you guys aren't on the same page, and you just fed them ultimate, all because the Winston thought you guys were ready to dive with him. So when that does happen, when the Winston dies, more than likely your team isn't going to back off. You're going to try to go and try to pick up the scraps that Winston was trying to get. He was trying to go on a 1v6, so more than likely your whole entire team is going to push forward without the Winston, but then it's a 5v6, and more than likely you guys are going to lose that fight because, well, they have numbers, and more than likely they're going to be easily taking you out. So you're not only feeding them Winston ultimate charge, you're feeding the whole enemy team, just your whole entire team ultimate charge. The Zarya, the Lucio, the Mercy, the Tracer, whatever the case may be. So you just gave them all ultimates, and now they're ready for the next fight, and they're probably going to use all their ultimates on you right there to destroy you, and okay, then you lost that second fight. So it's just the cause and effect factor that all happened because you weren't ready for the Winston dive at that initial push, all because because you guys weren't ready to communicate and get ready to make a plan. It all goes back down to just talking in game chat and communicating and just making a plan and not dying in that first initial push. Let me just give you another example of why the dive comp really doesn't work if you're not in game chat making plans. So another part of the dive comp that makes it so effective is when Lucio speed boosts, because well, the slower heroes are able to get in the fight. So okay, Lucio has, oh, he just speed boosts right there. Were you ready for that? Well, you wouldn't tell me because the Lucio wasn't in game chat, or maybe you're not in game chat. So he just wasted speed boost. He's going into the fight all by himself. This 200 HP DJ is going in there, and then he's just, oh, well, what are you guys doing? And he's so vulnerable. Like, he has some abilities that can help defend him a little bit, but really, if you're not going in to help the Lucio, and if you're not attacking at those different angles like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, then first of all, the Lucio's gonna die. There goes one support hero, and then okay, you're diving, now it's a 5v6. It's just the same thing over and over again. You're just feeding them Lucio ult, and now you're just feeding up the enemy team all your guys' ult because, well, you weren't ready to go in with the Lucio. And it just all goes back, I'm gonna say this over and over again probably, it just all goes back because you guys weren't in game chat, or the other guys weren't in game chat willing to make a plan to go in and coordinate something to wipe out the whole enemy team. So there's just a lot of factors when going in with the dive comp that if one hero drops the ball, it can just cause so many other unnecessary deaths because, well, one hero dropped that was supposed to do their job. If they're not able to do their job, then these other heroes can't be supported, or vice versa. If the heroes that need to be supported just die, then what are the support heroes going to support? Themselves? They can only do so much. The Mercy can only do so much. The Lucio can only do so much. So really, this I'm like a broken record at this point. You gotta coordinate and go in together as a unit, and that's why I feel like the lower levels really don't understand that, because they're not willing to work together as a unit. I've had a few games at the higher levels that just worked out tremendously because, well, we're all in game chat, we're all on the same page, and we're all gonna work together, and we all know how to use the heroes that are required with the dive comp. And that's the last and final point that I'm gonna talk about that really a lot of people are still forgetting, just not even with the dive comp, just with Overwatch in general. In the video where I talked about the dive comp, I gave a basic cookie cutter guide of a few heroes that you can use, and even though it is pretty flexible, there's still some heroes that are more ideal with the dive comp, like a Zarya and like a Mercy. If you don't know how to use a Winston, a Lucio, a Mercy, or a Zarya, whatever the two other DPS heroes could be, whether it's a Tracer, Genji, or Pharah, if you don't know how to use any of those heroes and you're more comfortable with someone else, don't try to be running the dive comp, because really, this might be like a duh, of course that makes sense, but still, people don't really understand it. They have to play a hero that they're more comfortable with. If they're playing a hero that they really don't understand, then it's not going to work. But let's say you're playing Zarya, right? Let's use me as an example. I really don't know how to play Zarya all that well because I don't know who to really bubble in a certain type of situation because, well, maybe one hero is getting focused, but I need to bubble the Mercy because she needs a little bit added protection because she has res. You know, it's just simple situations like that I don't really understand. So if we're going with the dive comp and I'm thrown into the position where I need to play Zarya, I'm probably going to drop the ball so many times because I don't know how to play Zarya, and I don't know when it calls for me to bubble myself, let alone a whole entire team. Maybe I do need to bubble the Winston. It's just obvious stuff like that I kind of know, but in certain situations where I don't need to bubble the Winston, it's not going to run well because, well, I don't know how to play Zarya. Let me just use another example. Let's say like the DPS heroes, like maybe a Tracer or a Genji or Pharah. Let's just use the tagline of the flankers. You need to know not to rely on your healers 100% of the time. And what's the best way to not rely on your healers? To know where every single health pack is and know when to go into the fight and know when to get out of the fight, especially with Genji. At least with Tracer, you can recall and regain your health. Okay, that's fine. When it comes to Pharah, you're able to like use your concussion blast to go in and out of the fight, and also jetpack. Okay, that's fine. Genji, while he does have his dash, you really shouldn't be using your dash to get out of the fight because it's more effective to go into the fight, throw your stars, dash into another. It's just, you guys know how to use Genji pretty much. So you got to be thoughtful for your healers because, well, the Winston and the Zarya needs to be supported, and Lucio, while he can also heal, more than likely he's going to be staying on his speed song and speed boosting everyone so that they can get the different angles to attack everyone. So really, if you don't know how to play Tracer, Genji, Pharah, or pretty much any other DPS hero, you really shouldn't be running the dive comp if you don't know the whole entire situation, and you really get familiar with that when you get a little bit of practice in with those heroes, especially in quick play. So really, just to summarize it all up into one last little sentence, it takes a lot of team coordination, but also takes a lot of thinking and understanding the situation situation. If you're not familiar with Zarya, if you're not familiar with Genji, more than likely the dive comp is gonna crumble and fall because, well, you're just kind of going in and guessing, oh, I hope this works out, even though it's probably not gonna work out. So I know this was a bit longer of a video, but I had to explain a lot of different situations that you guys were probably in when running the dive comp that you were probably wondering, oh, bro, YOU WACK said the dive comp is one of the best. Well, it probably didn't work out because you didn't think of these other factors. Going into game chat, knowing the hero you needs to play, knowing when to get out of the fight, just simple stuff like that makes the dive comp really well, but also makes the dive comp really ineffective because you're your biggest counter, and that's the biggest thing you have to remember. The biggest counter to the dive comp, while this might sound stupid, there are some obvious counters, I guess, in terms of the heroes, but the biggest counter in theory is yourself because you're not willing to make a plan, even though you might be willing to, but your whole other team might not, if that made any sense. Hopefully it did. So anyway, guys, I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. More Overwatch videos to come, and bye.